Well, NHK is learning North Korea may be prepping for another missile launch ahead of a key anniversary. A U.S. government official tells NHK that the North has been transporting equipment for ballistic missile launches to a site in the country's northwest. The official says the Pentagon is speculating that the launch of an ICBM-grade missile could take place this week. In the U.S., the Washington Post newspaper reported that Pentagon analysts are predicting that North Korea could field a reliable and nuclear-capable Intercontinental Ballistic missile as early as next year. The latest analysis dramatically shrinks the predicted timeline for when North Korea could strike North American cities with atomic weapons. Pyongyang announced earlier this month it had successfully test-fired an ICBM. And the North continues to use its state-run media to threaten the United States. On Wednesday, the ruling Workers' Party newspaper published a front-page story about a meeting the Korean People's Army held a day earlier, and the paper says the top political officer of the Korean People's Army addressed the troops. It says the officer quoted North Korea leader Kim Jong-un as saying that the North's military will push aggressors into a grave of ruin if the enemy recklessly provokes the country again. Now, the report comes just days ahead of the 64th anniversary of the Korean armistice. The North has designated July 27th as Victory Day. And in the hopes of eventually stopping the North's nuclear and missile program, the U.S. moved to impose new sanctions on the country on Tuesday. And it is also considering imposing more on China. A senior U.S. government official says that the Trump administration plans to impose new sanctions on Chinese entities doing business with North Korea. The acting assistant secretary of state says the administration is working on a new list of people and organizations it thinks are violating existing sanctions.
There's no specific timetable, but there's no specific, hesitation to do that. We will be proceeding with those as soon as we can get target packages ready to go and get the evidentiary standards and legal standards met that we need to meet.
Susan Thornton says North Korea has no desire to abandon its nuclear development and conditions are not in place for dialogue. So the U.S. is considering imposing further sanctions to stop the flow of funds to the North. It underscores the American commitment to step up pressure. Last month, the government imposed sanctions on 2 Chinese businesses and 2 Chinese individuals for their alleged involvement in Pyongyang's nuclear and missile programs. The Chinese ambassador is against those kinds of measures.
Such actions are unacceptable. They have seriously impaired China-U.S. cooperation on the Korean nuclear issue.
The ambassador also claims China has been working with the U.S. towards the denuclearization of the Korean peninsula. Meanwhile, lawmakers in the U.S. have approved tough new sanctions against Russia. The House of Representatives passed a bill designed to punish the country for its alleged interference in last year's U.S. presidential election. The move puts pressure on President Donald Trump, who is trying to improve relations with Moscow. Members of the House overwhelmingly backed the bill that is also regarded as a response to Russia's military intervention in Ukraine. It targets cyber criminals backed by the Kremlin, as well as people who cooperate with Russia's intelligence agencies. The bill still needs to clear the Senate before it's sent to the president to be signed. Trump, who has been dogged by his alleged connections with Russia, has the power to veto the legislation.